Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to Utility Sports. We have breaking news on a future first ballot Hall of Famer. Former MVP guard Russell Westbrook has officially signed. He had gone unsigned throughout a majority of the NBA offseason, but now here in the preseason and leading up just 6 days away now from the beginning of the regular season, Russell Westbrook has found a home, and it's been the team that has been most heavily linked to him throughout the offseason, and that, of course, is the Sacramento Kings, who have been renovating their backcourt post De'Aaron Fox trade. They, of course, sent Fox to San Antonio at the trade deadline this past February, and then this offseason brought in Dennis Schroeder and now brought in Russell Westbrook as well, which I think is actually an intriguing fit here on this Kings team. In today's video, we'll discuss that fit, what I think about this signing, and a lot more. So I hope you guys do enjoy. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you do. But let's get over to Sham Charania here, who says 9-time NBA All-Star Russell Westbrook has agreed on a deal to sign with the Sacramento Kings. Jeff Schwartz of XL Sports Management tells ESPN the 2017 League MVP enters his 18th NBA season. Where has all the time gone? It just feels crazy to me that Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, James Harden, you think about how that young trio in OKC, how they've aged now, and all of us have. It's crazy. But Westbrook now moving on to the Sacramento Kings. You think about the pathway he's been on, right? Started his career in OKC, was traded to Houston, then traded to Washington, traded to the Lakers, then ended up playing for the Clippers, and then most recently with the Denver Nuggets. I actually thought he was a really good fit next to Nikola Jokic, and I think that gives us a little bit of a lens to look through for his fit with the Sacramento Kings. So for my Kings fans watching, is this a good signing or is it not? I actually do think this is a pretty solid pickup for the Sacramento Kings. Now, I do think Russell Westbrook, with all of his flaws, and there's quite a number of them, sometimes the inconsistency in terms of decision making, I think can be a real negative for a team. But his athleticism and his ability to cut, I think, should actually be a very valuable tool off of Domantas Sabonis. Some of the biggest benefits I saw from Russell Westbrook playing with the Denver Nuggets last year was the fact that he was a willing cutter off of Jokic post-ups. And while Domantas Sabonis isn't as talented or quite the MVP caliber player like Nikola Jokic, he is a consistent All-NBA presence and someone who can win in the low post. Obviously one of the best DHO players in the league. And the Kings, while renovating their roster like I talked about post De'Aaron Fox, they do actually have a number of good players off the catch, whether it's flying off of DHOs. You look at someone like Malik Monk, who's really good at that. You look at Dennis Schroeder, I think, is going to be an additive player there. DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine obviously can shoot the ball quite well. I think Westbrook gives them more of that downhill juice. Malik Monk has a lot of that downhill explosiveness as well. And I think Westbrook, one of the things you have to say about him, one of the most impressive areas of his game in general, is still his athleticism. Going into his 18th NBA season, he is still an incredible athlete. Now, I do think there has been some slight slippage compared to how explosive and dominant athletically he was during his Thunder tenure. But for the most part, he is still someone who can rock the rim, get up above the rim, and finish at a high rate around the rim. Now, around bigs, and we'll see how matchups play out here, but I think one of the biggest benefits of him playing next to some of these dominant post-up bigs, these strong physical presences, is it really dampens and softens his matchup in a big way. And what I mean by that, for example, last year when a team was guarding Denver, they're not going to put a wing or a small on Nikola Jokic. The center has to guard Jokic, which makes the matchup here for Westbrook a lot easier. In previous seasons, we've seen teams explore putting bigs on him, trying to gap off of him, sag off of him, and especially when he doesn't have the ball, that can be very limiting for an NBA offense. And I think when you put him next to a big like a Sabonis, like a Jokic, it at least softens that blow a little bit because most of the time the bigs are going to be guarding the Sabonis, the Jokic type in the offense. So I do think actually Sabonis and Westbrook can actually coexist pretty decently together. And I think if you asked me that 12 months ago, I would have been very skeptical of that fit. But I think my philosophy has changed based on how the Westbrook tenure in Denver went. Now, I still think that there are a lot of flaws in this signing. You know, if you're looking at Sacramento, the direction of this team is quite questionable. I think one thing that they're going to be able to do is play pretty quickly, get up and down the floor. Obviously, Monk adds to that. Sabonis is one of the best grab-and-go kind of players in the league. Westbrook obviously can get on the glass as well. I think that's a key area here. The Kings are getting another really great rebounder, and rebounding is such an instrumental part of winning and losing in the NBA. It doesn't get talked enough about, but I do think Westbrook is still very additive in that department. I know for a while people were saying he was stat padding, grabbing rebounds, but he was also one of the key elements for OKC dominating on the glass while Steven Adams boxed out in that era of basketball. So I think with Westbrook here, Sabonis is another guy who boxes out extremely well, typically toward the top of the league in box outs, and I think Westbrook's going to help the Kings clear the glass a little bit more. And I also don't see this as a 30-minute per game signing. This is going to be an 18 to 24-minute per game player for the Sacramento Kings. And while Westbrook, again, he comes with a litany of flaws, the three-point shooting is at best streaky, he's still a player that I think can be additive on certain nights depending on matchups. And I think for Sacramento specifically around Sabonis, one thing that they've constantly needed is more athleticism. They have kind of pushed their chips into this older roster with DeRozan. Levine's not super young anymore either. Obviously, Westbrook going into his 18th season. This team is not super young. So it'll be interesting to see how the season plays out. I'm not super excited about the Kings still. Just being transparent here, Kings fans, I don't think that your team is ready to compete for an NBA championship or anything like that. But I do think throughout the course of an 82-game season, the Kings actually have a good plethora of ball handling, playmaking, decision-making across from, Sabonis, DeRozan, Monk a little bit. Schroeder, I think, will be a key piece there. And then Westbrook, you have multiple players who can handle and make decisions for others. Levine obviously can be a play finisher for you. We'll see how much he has the ball in his hands. I think that'll be an interesting storyline to follow this year for Sacramento. Kings fans, let me know down in the comment section below what you think about this signing. Really hope you guys did enjoy today's video. If you did, leave a like, subscribe, and we'll catch you in the very next Utility Sports video.